All right, music fans, welcome back. Harmless Dave here, talking about real music in real time for a few real people out there, just like you right there, just like me right here. So I went to the thrift store this weekend and I got a copy of this CD just lying around. Common Thread, the songs of the Eagles. Man, this just is such a masterpiece. All of these great country artists back in the early 90s coming together to help the Eagles get back together. That's what this did. This was the catalyst. And there was one man who really got the ball rolling by what he said to Irving Azoff, which is a great story. If you hear him tell it, he's going to do a better job than yours truly here. And of course, I'm talking about Travis Tritt. Now, Travis didn't know what song he was going to sing on this collection. He had ideas, and every time he put forth an idea like, hey, I want to sing Desperado, someone else already had it. Clint Black was singing that. And he went down the list, and pretty much all the songs he wanted to sing were already taken. So eventually, his agent or his attorney said, why not do Take It Easy? And so he agreed to do Take It Easy. And, he did the song, and then Irving Azoff gave him a phone call, probably listened to Travis's version of the song and said, I want this to be the lead single off this collection. And I need a concept for a video. And he says to Travis Tritt, do you have any ideas? And he says, yeah, but we got to have Don Henley and Glenn Frey there. And so that just set the wheels in motion. Maybe Irving at that point hadn't completely bought into the idea of the Eagles getting back together again. But keep in mind, Glenn Frey's solo career was definitely on the decline. Don Henley at that point had a really big album like 2 or 3 years prior, but hadn't put anything out up until, I don't know when he put, I think it was toward the end of the 90s that Don Henley would release another solo album, but it took him a very long time. You would think after the end of The Innocents and all of that great music and how well that did, that they would continue to keep hitting while, the iron was hot, that old expression. But there was a gap. And so this was the perfect time. And so Irving is probably thinking to himself, get Don Henley and Glenn Frey together. So Travis Tritt apparently ends up being on like a 3-way call with Glenn Frey. And they talk to Glenn and they ask him, hey, will you be in this video for the song Take It Easy? And Glenn's thinking, yeah, you guys are honoring all this music we did. This is great. I'd love to be a part of it. But first, you guys should ask Don and see what he thinks. If Don will do it, I'll do it. So that was the ultimatum. So they hung up with Glenn Frey and they call up Don Henley. And they didn't tell Don that Glenn had already agreed, but apparently Don had a similar reaction. And so lo and behold, you had the Eagles in this video for the song Take It Easy. They're walking around, they're shooting pool, they're pretending they're playing their instruments on the track. And Travis Tritt, by the way, kills it. He does such an amazing job with the song. I think that's what Irving probably heard. All the other people do great versions of the songs. Vince Gill, who is now in the Eagles, kills it on the Tim Schmidt song, I Can't Tell You Why. That's why when he joined, I'm like, you don't need another Tim Schmidt in the band. What you need is a guy who's more like Glenn Frey, Travis Tritt. So I'm not sure why they didn't go for Travis Tritt first. The only thing I can think is politics. Because if you remember, during the pandemic, Travis Tritt was like a hero to me. He was like, no, I'm not going to require people to get a stupid QR code to go to a concert. Whereas the Eagles were like, hey, I hope you've been to CVS a couple of times. And if not, there's a tent right outside. I think that was actually Garth Brooks. But, this is the extreme to which a lot of these musicians were going. And I know, look, it's a couple years later. nobody really cares, right? Everybody's like, come on, Dave. It's not happening anymore, so why do you care? I care because it's probably going to happen again. And I'm grateful for people like Travis Tritt, who seem to like America as a concept. Like maybe Travis Tritt doesn't like what America is, but he's Americana. He believes in that old American spirit, whereas I don't think the Eagles really ever embodied that spirit, although I think Don Felder does, and I think Joe Walsh does a lot of great things for veterans. But as far as the other politics, I don't know. I think Travis is a little outside of the club, if you know what I mean, and that's probably why he didn't get asked. I think he would have been, look, Travis Tritt would have been an amazing replacement for Glenn Frey. Nobody can replace Glenn, but Travis Tritt's voice has got that hillbilly element. Vince Gill doesn't have any hillbilly in him, really, just little hint of it. But Travis Tritt, I think, embodies the spirit of those earlier Eagles albums, whereas Vince Gill is much more adult contemporary sounding and far more generic. Even Vince Gill, when he was big in country music, a lot of his albums could have been adult contemporary or pop. He tended to, take out a lot of that country instrumentation, pedal steel, and things like that. Although in some instances he brought everything in. I just think vocally, overall, Travis Tritt would have been a better fit to replace the late Glenn Frey compared to Vince Gill. And so the truth is, it was Travis Tritt. He's the guy that helped get the Eagles back together, talking to Irving Azoff, saying you got to get Glenn Frey and Don Henley together. And as soon as that happened, then, the cat was out of the bag. The horse was out of the barn. I mean, whatever stupid cliche you can think of. And then hell was freezing over a couple years later. So in any event, Common Thread, if you haven't listened to Common Thread in a while, just fantastic. And next time you see Travis Tritt, maybe Don Henley should be doing this. Thank Travis for getting the Eagles back together again and for inspiring them to go back out there and do what they used to do. And now they've been doing that for how many years? Almost another 30 years. It's just crazy. I think about 30 years in their second act, which eclipsed their first act by about 20 years or so. So Travis Tritt, the man who brought the Eagles back together again. That's pretty much the truth. With a little help from old Irving Azoff, who I'm sure always was scheming behind the scenes to get the boys rolling again. All right, that's my video. Thanks for watching. Please pray for peace in the Middle East, folks. War is bad, okay? We don't like war. Most people shouldn't like war. Pray for peace. That used to be a message for all these old hippies like the Eagles back in the early days. Not sure anybody is preaching it anymore. It's really a shame. Edwin Starr famously said, war, what is it good for? Absolutely nothing. And I agree with Edwin Starr. See you soon.